The Sunday school lesson for March 23rd, 2025 is Up in Smoke, Leviticus chapter 1, verses 3 through 17. Welcome, viewers and subscribers to my channel, The Backstory and More. I am Audrey. If you are interested in knowing what happens before each Sunday school lesson, you are at the right place because I will share the backstory, read the lesson text, and offer a brief lesson summary. Please subscribe to this channel if you find it of any benefit. Thank you so much for all that you do to help this channel grow one viewer and one subscriber at a time. The backstory takes us to an introduction to the book of Leviticus. The book's name, Leviticus, is derived from the word Levite. The Levites are the group within Israel to whom the book is primarily addressed. As those who were to serve before God in the tabernacle and later the temple, the Levites had laws that determined the service of various rituals. Even so, the book addresses the nation as a whole. It emphasizes the necessity of communal and personal holiness. In the presence of a holy God, no one can ignore or commit sin without consequence. Thus, God established the system of sacrifices and offerings as a way for sinful people to atone for their misbehavior and approach Him for worship and fellowship. Chapters 1 through 7 describe the priesthood and the offerings that God required. Chapter 1, this lesson's focus, explains the burnt offering, a general sacrifice for believers to acknowledge sin and seek renewed relationship with God. The priestly consecration of Aaron and his sons is described in chapters 8 through 10. And chapters 11 through 16 provide God's prescription for various types of uncleanness. God's guidelines for maintaining holiness are the focus of the book's remaining chapters 17 through 27. Leviticus reminds the faith community in every generation that God dwells among His people, and that His attitude towards sin and standards of holiness have not changed. Leviticus chapter 1, verses 1 through 2 reads, "The Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting. He said, 'Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when anyone among you brings an offering to the Lord, bring as your offering an animal from either the herd or the flock.'" Our lesson begins with the next frame, verse 3. Verse 3. If the offering is a burnt offering from the herd, you are to offer a male without defect. You must present it at the entrance to the tent of meeting so that it will be acceptable to the Lord. Verse 4. You are to lay your hand on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted on your behalf to make atonement for you. Verse 5. You are to slaughter the young bull before the Lord. And then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall bring the blood and splash it against the sides of the altar at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Verses 6 through 7. You are to skin the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. The sons of Aaron, the priest, are to put fire on the altar and arrange wood on the fire. Verse 8. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall arrange the pieces, including the head and the fat, on the wood that is burning on the altar. Verse 9. You are to wash the internal organs and the legs with water, and the priest is to burn all of it on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Verse 10. If the offering is a burnt offering from the flock, from either the sheep or the goats, you are to offer a male without defect. Verse 11. You are to slaughter it at the north side of the altar before the Lord. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall splash its blood against the sides of the altar. Verse 12. You are to cut it into pieces, and the priest shall arrange them, including the head and the fat, on the wood that is burning on the altar. Verse 13. You are to wash the internal organs and the legs with water, and the priest is to bring all of them and burn them on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Verse 14. If the offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of birds, you are to offer a dove or a young pigeon. Verse 15. The priest shall bring it to the altar, wring off the head, and burn it on the altar. Its blood shall be drained out on the side of the altar. Verses 16 through 17. He is to remove the crop and the feathers and throw them down east of the altar where the ashes are. He shall tear it open by the wings, not dividing it completely. And then the priest shall burn it on the wood that is burning on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. A very brief summary. When we think of Old Testament sacrifices, we tend to picture one type of offering. But these first chapters go into detail describing 5 kinds of offerings, each with a distinct purpose and a distinct procedure for performing. In chapter 1, we see the burnt offering. The burnt offering was a recognition that human beings are in a sinful state, unworthy to come before the presence of God. A perfect animal was required and had to be completely burned. Furthermore, it was offered continuously, as often as twice a day, on an altar that was never extinguished. Thank you so very much for listening. And remember that every Sunday at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, I release a new video for the upcoming Sunday school lesson. Thank you so much for everything that you do to help me reach the masses and to help me walk in my path. Stay safe, and may God continue to richly bless each of you, is my prayer.